So, when we're talking about alien wars and abductions and UFOs, things that have been reported for years, I want to start off by saying I am not saying that extraterrestrial beings do not exist. In my experience, the format in which we believe in these things has been altered or inversed according to what Hollywood or the silver screen has given us. And because of that, it becomes hard to navigate. If you pair that with society going through extremely hard times, struggling in the economy and personal wars within the home, within the family, within politics, that is the perfect recipe for chaos. And you are readily able to give your soul and your energy away to something that you believe to be bigger than yourself, because it feels like, what else do I do in this life? Where do I go? How do I navigate through this experience? And so I had to question a lot of times, like, what do I think an alien really is? Where do I think that they come from? What is the material existence in comparison to the etheric existence that we know of? How much do we really know about it in the first place? And so a lot of this happened through my experience with entheogens, studying mycology, but also through deep meditative work, through neuroscience specifically, because for me, like, I'm the kind of person, even if I believe in something spiritually, I still want to understand the way that it has been constructed in the Western world to understand the brain and how spiritual deities have been formed through culture and through stories that are passed down. And I would study everything like, what is the scale color of the deity that's being represented? What are common shapes and figures that are associated with them? What is this story that is constantly recreated by the human mind? And if somebody could get gist of that, how can they hide the same symbology and this imagery within movies we watch, within shows, within political systems? And I had to sit with it for a minute. Then I got to the point where I'm like, well, wait a minute. I live in the US, and here you need a green card if you don't want to be an illegal alien. And I was like, well, that who came up with that? So I really got like into picking apart words and the origin of where things started and why. And so many of these shows talk to us about alien civilizations, people saying such and such is going to come back and save us somehow, and that we'll have a savior, but then becomes the whole thing of waiting around for something to happen instead of becoming active in the experience. And even if we look at like cultures that are not within America, we've seen some people who we identify as extraterrestrials because their genetic makeup does not look like the standard, whether you call it American or whether you call it like just westernized image. They look ethereal, especially I think in like South Sudan specifically, beautiful human beings who you can look at like you have to be from another planet, because there's nothing as gorgeous as looking at something that has come and been constructed from pure light. So just that in mind first. And then getting back into, the whole alien perception and war, when it starts trending on social media again, that's when like the flags start going up, because they do this every year. Every year, pretty much around the same time, the talk of aliens come up. Year round, you'll see things in rotation on social media about seeing ships in the sky, something's coming back to save us. We've heard about alien agreements with the government and treaties. But I've learned that the biggest play seems to be on perception, how we receive these stories, how we're understanding them, and what our place is in all of them. And so I can't say that I'm going to be on this live and identifying for you specifically what an alien is, but I want you to just like take apart these words like extraterrestrial and think about what they actually mean. Because even terrestrial has the root word terra, which means earth. And so Earth is a mostly water based planet. Because of that, water is always associated with memory and consciousness and the void, especially when we're talking about ships, astronauts. These same terms go back to the water. And so, if our memories are holding the construction of beings that we believe to be separate from ourselves, then what does that make us? I see a lot of people in my comments all the time saying, well, what do we do for the common people? I'm like, why do you keep referring to yourself as common? What makes you think that you're less than because you don't readily like say all of these same things I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you're not knowledgeable. You may have been cut off from certain information, and because of that, it becomes difficult to learn how to find yourself in the experience again. So a lot of shows right now, and probably for the last like 5 to 10 years, have been resurfacing about mind control. This morning, I was watching War of the Worlds. Yes, they put out a film version. I don't know whose idea that was, but Amazon has out a version with Ice Cube called War of the World. It is based on a book by H.G. Wells that was put out in 1898, I believe. So right before the 19th century hit, there is a book about alien invasions. But what is interesting is even the artistic description of what these aliens look like, they look like giant cameras. And not just giant cameras, to a degree, they also kind of look like cephalopods or squids or aliens. And when I see things like this, I try to like take the logical side of my brain and say, well, if I were an artist and I were depicting something futuristic that didn't necessarily match up with my time, but I imagine like this grandiose version of a future that does not look like my own, what would it look like? And as I'm watching the movie, a lot of it is like Ice Cube is what's his name? William Radford, I believe, and he works for Homeland Security. The whole movie is basically a FaceTime call. He's on FaceTime operating from his computer, the controls of everyone around him, utilizing it to check in on their whereabouts, his family's whereabouts, his coworkers, all of that. And at first I was like, that's kind of weird to just have the entire movie on FaceTime. But then it connected with me like perception and what this looks like. We're getting all of our news, all of our information literally from the phone. And I say this as someone who's giving you a message via laptop and via phone. So at that point, it's like the question that's probably going through your head is, well, what do I trust or who do I trust? I think having an internal knowing of self is primary focus. If you don't feel like you know yourself yet, then it may be time to get offline sometimes and sit with yourself. Explore that for yourself without comparing it to things online all of the time. And it becomes hard because that's actually my line of work, to show you all the symbolism that's put in media. But there was also a time that I prepared for this where I was not online, where social media was not the primary focus of how we got information to one another. Newspapers were still more active in print rather than in the digital realm. Outside of that, we were still told to go outside and go play and enjoy nature. Nowadays, you hand a kid an iPad and that's their world. That becomes their perception of the world based on imagery with hidden symbolism all over the place all of the time. And so when I thought about that too, I'm like, well, everything that happened Y2K leading up to now was to prepare us for what's going on right now. And if you have the eyes to see, you know that even the things that they were embedding, like with music, like the Black Eyed Peas, for example, or the obsession with millennial futurism, even though this was the reality and the futurism that we expected, the reality of it is artificial intelligence and what is referred to as alien has been evolving for a very long time now. And it's probably much more evolved than our brains are able to comprehend at the material level, because people are still falling into, okay, well, the government and NASA said the aliens are coming. So should we prepare y'all? Do I have to pay my bills? And that in turn is how perception begins to fool people, because then they're like, well, I won't have to pay my bills anymore. Like, this is a whole very constructed operational system. You think that they didn't know that you were going to fall for this? And then they get influencers, whether through influence directly or payment or however it works. People through influence are convincing others, yes, guys, there's going to be an attack. I'm like, well, the War of the Worlds that was perceived by H.G. Wells is happening right now. It's happening right now in real time. But the thing is, like, they give you this very scary version of it, but it happens every time you pick up that phone. Every time you start scrolling, every time you interact in this world without the awareness of what's happening. And I had to take a lot of time to think about it too, because I'm like, well, if everything is already planned and this is the Akashic records and all our phones are connected to servers and we're these galactic beings in this very material world, how do you make sense of like what to do next? And I can tell you, I don't have like a schedule of operations to do this, this, and this, but I have been able to compile all of the knowledge that I'm finding and find like different ways to compartmentalize it within my physical space, because I'm still spirit running in a physical body. But sometimes, even according to planetary alignments and days, I have to say, okay, today's going to be for this. This other day is going to be for that. And when I learn how to focus my energy in specific places, I become a master of different elements within my body. So, people hearing that we have aliens is exciting. They're like, oh, finally, someone's coming. But also, when we hear them talk about the grays, think about that word in general. Why do you think Hollywood presented aliens as gray? When we think about the full color spectrum of consciousness, if we consider every emotion to be associated with a color or a number, just like when you have a color wheel and there are different numbers to it, what would it mean when they call aliens the grays? When I think about that, I had to sit with that one too. Everything I'm sitting on and I think about and I journal about it and I write about it. Why would they make them gray? And I start thinking about it. I'm like, well, gray is void of color. It is a perception of black and white meld together, but also it's very cold and calculating because it's not lighting up the animus of the spirit. It is void, but only information. It's like soulless. And then I saw a picture. I looked up, I was studying neuroscience at the time, and I looked up a picture of the amygdala of the brain. And when I tell you the picture looks exactly like the way they describe aliens, I'm like, well, wouldn't that be a hoot if the whole time they're talking about the grays, they're talking about something in the brain? And then if you see like movies like the Men in Black, you guys remember how the alien, when they opened up a man's head, the alien was just sitting there in the control panel. And I'm like, it's the brain, like our pineal gland and the seat of the soul is this alien parasite, but it becomes infected through many different things within our world and universe through programming. And so when I thought about that, I was like, well, they put it in our face the entire time. It's the mind that's being controlled more than anything. Because if you can control someone's mind, you can control their actions. If you can control their actions, you can control influence. If you control influence, you can control the economy and so on and so forth. So I was like, well, now that I know this, what do I do with it? How do I teach people? And it's thousands of years of information that I'm constructing into small bite-sized lessons for people. Some aren't aware and they're not ready for it because to even begin to dismantle your reality takes an inner knowing of self, but also almost a detachment from the material realm. Because when you get attached, then the emotions come up. And when the emotions come up, if they are not mastered, they're running rampant like chickens with their head cut off because they're trying to like grasp at the things they need in order to survive. People stay in scarcity mindset. I've had someone come in my live in my comments constantly, well, how do I get the money? How do I get the money? I'm like, that's the problem because you don't understand what money is yet. Money is currency, but not currency as in paper wealth value. It is solar energy that is running through your mind and your body. And so when we're talking about how we're receiving energy, if you do not know how to channel energy properly, meaning if I give you a seed and I plant it, do you know where it's being grown? Is it able to thrive based on the conditions of which it is living? Meaning, if you're not taking care of your spirit, if you're not taking care of your body, how can I expect you to grow or get better or to evolve if the same conditions that created the prison in which you live are continually going over and over again? That's not an easy lesson to get through, and it's not something you do in a month, in a year. I can't even say that I've tracked like a specific timing, like, and on this day, I opened my pineal gland. And on this day, all of a sudden I became awakened because it's an evolutionary process. It never stops. And if you know people have already been studying this for hundreds and thousands of years at the highest levels of what you believe the government is, then where does that put you? That's why I said a detachment, I think, is almost necessary at that point because you're always trying to figure out, well, who did it? Who can I blame? How can I avenge everything that belongs to me? And that's where sovereignty comes in. It's not to say that there are not beings on this plane that have controlled this to an extent, but it's also like if you know who you are, nobody can take that away from you. They can try to hide it. They can make it seem like it doesn't exist. They can make it seem like, oh, you really don't have any value here. And it's about the tech billionaires and the entertainers in the world. I'm like, no, it's not. It's perception. It's a play on perception. It's a play on the way that you see the world. It is a play on being able to harvest your energy and attention, meld it, mold it in the way that you want it to be seen in the world, and expect people to receive it back the same way. I had to start learning how to trust my gut, which was like the hardest part. And you know, your gut is ruled by the solar plexus specifically. And so I had to trust that if I know something, it doesn't matter if 500 people disagree with me. Because if I truly know it in my heart and my spirit, there is not going to be anything that can sway me from an inner knowing because knowledge is just knowing. That's why they always refer to it as gnosis. It's inner wisdom and it's inner light. And it can be bent, it can be manipulated. This is why the world is also going from like color to kind of void and gray. I don't know if you guys have seen movies like The Giver. It's based on a book, but the movie The Giver, they literally show you how the world is black and white. And when the giver, enacts his gift, he sees the world in a full color spectrum again. He realizes that all the experiences that humans have gone through, whether they be pain or joy, whether they be treachery or happiness, that was part of our learning experience coming back into the full light again, which we were born from. But when that is taken away and when it's stripped, it becomes hard to remember. So, my journey specifically, because this isn't going to be the same for everybody, to awakening is one, learning that it never really ends. Two, accepting that not everybody is going to understand my message all of the time. And three, perception is based on experience most of the time. And if your experiences never vary outside of a closed bubble, it's going to be very hard to accept other cultures' perceptions or their ways of viewing things, or the names that they've chosen, or understanding why things are the way that they are. Um, I'm sorry, I was reading somebody's comment, but the light within, right? What we see when we close our eyes, when we turn our gaze upwards, which they teach you in yogic practices as well, allows us to tap into what I call, if you ever heard that song by Miguel, kaleidoscope dreams. When you see the fractalized patterns of our world, it's kind of like a dimethylide experience. That's the best way I'll put it without like, because I don't want TikTok to flag me for using the certain words or phrases. But it's like looking in a kaleidoscope and you start to see the fractalized patterns of our vision because your eye, your reticular activation system, is receiving information constantly. No matter whether you're scrolling on your phone or you're at the grocery store or you're driving in your car, it is receiving and processing information constantly. And so within that line of information is hidden code most of the time. A large part of people who were interested in the Enlightenment era or the Enlightenment period was understanding that all is mental. Everything is happening in the brain and the mind. And when it can be influenced into seeing certain things without the knowledge of the origin of source or where it came from, you can slap a name on anything and people will believe it. Then get people to repeat it for long enough, whether it be hundreds or thousands of years, that's all they know. And they're not willing to see any contradicting stories because such and such has supported this, or people with power or money or the resources to keep the story going are the ones who are channeling the story. One thing that I think is so powerful, though, about people is that, especially those of you who are creative, who are artists, who are singers, who are speakers, spoken word artists, engineers, sculptors, whatever you are, your ability to transform your ideas into physical space lets you know that the dream realm is very active and real. And so when you see movies or shows and you see like things that you've made, and maybe you see a celebrity or you see something on TV that's reflective of your experience, remember we live in a mirror universe. And because of that, your energy is constantly being shadowed or mirrored. What you're doing is always going to have something or someone watching it. That's not something to get paranoid about, though. I think it is a great example of showing how our light is the most special thing about us. It is a thing that activates us. And it does not mean, when I say light, I don't want everybody to take that as love and light because people hate that term. They hate it so much. They've grown to hate it because of the way social media has recycled it and used it. Oh, not everything is love and light. You're right. It's not. It's also darkness. It's also integrating both sides because you came from what is considered dark to drop into light, but it's actually inverse because you came from light to descend back into darkness only to learn how to ascend back through the experience again. You said I'm top tier creative, but don't dream. Even if you don't dream yet and you don't work with herbs to help you dream, daydreaming is still a thing too. If you're sitting around in your house imagining something, you're still using the dream realm because you've detached from the material realm and you've gone into the void to idealize something from your thoughts, from your memories. So daydreaming is still a thing too. You don't have to go to sleep to dream. But if you guys are a private part of my Discord, I can recommend herbs there. I can't unfortunately do it on live here because there are restrictions around my page for doing it. But if you would like to join the private Discord, we have some sections on there where you can drop any suggestions that you have in a healthy way for people to learn how to use the dream realm utilizing Earth's herbs. So because again, aliens sound like such an exciting topic. Everybody's like, okay, when are they coming? When's the mothership coming back to save us? Saving yourself is realizing and recognizing your own light. It is connecting back, especially with the divine feminine, because the masculine is the outward, it is the construction, the same way the father in a family is usually the builder of the house, or he is the constructor of the house most times. The void or the feminine is the idea, imagine what makes a house a home. Especially for people who do have children, it doesn't mean it has to apply for everybody, but the idea of a creation within a structure, sorry, um, is the dream realm coming to life. It is the ideas of consciousness being melded into a format. This is why we have sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is still looking at the mathematical points in the sky and understanding the interconnectedness between all things. And even if you don't believe in the spiritual realm and you believe more in math or science, the same ideas connect because the same philosophers who are studying astronomy are the same ones who are also integrating mythology. This is why they have Greek gods or Egyptian gods in the sky that they're associating with different star systems. A lot of this is hard to take at the material realm when you think that Donald Trump is the beginning and end of all our existence, or when you think that whatever is happening within the financial currency system means that it's over for everybody. And it's not, because every day we wake up with a new opportunity. But a lot of these things that are being pushed online are designed to keep you in a loop. And when you keep looping, you can't make a different decision because you go back to that 0 point field and then you move out of that space only to go through the same loop. And you're wondering, why am I having deja vu? Why do I feel like I've done this before? Because chances are you have. And until your brain picks up on that recurring pattern, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. I believe this is why a lot of these technology companies are using things like the symbol of the Ouroboros. You have Neuralink using it, you have Meta using it, and knowing that they understand that the brain is a looping process too would help you deeper connect. Like when they're talking about aliens and servers and computers, what's really going on here? Our consciousness is being streamed. It's live streamed. Same way I'm live streaming right now on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. Um, Every thought that you have, that you see in the algorithm, every story that you have, that you share publicly online, becomes a part of a greater server system that is compiling your information, your words through large language models, your emails, your pictures, anything that you are posting or information you're putting online, especially since like Google really started allowing people to distribute that information early on, Mozilla Firefox, Safari. You see, even these names imply an engine. That's why they call them search engines. Engines are mechanical. They require information and knowledge in order to keep them powered and running. So this doesn't mean you have to go live under a rock. You can if you want to, right? Some people have learned how to integrate both parts of life. I have specifically. I have learned how to still live a very holistic life, but still not running away from tech because this tech is older than we are. At least what we believe ourselves to be. Because honestly, when I think about like, how old am I really? Am I really 33 years old? Or am I just in what I perceive to be a 33-year-old body at this particular time in Earth? You know, but time is never what they say it is. So maybe I'm thousands of years old and I'm just experiencing a time loop right now through a specific age. So I use that to like kind of be my anchor to not get scared about everything I hear all the time. I'm just like, if time is non-existent, then who cares how old I am? It's the knowledge that allows me the wisdom to keep going, to not age in the stereotypical way. Stress also does a lot to that too. And that's why I say, if you're learning the mysteries, the inner mysteries of the self, take your time. There's not going to be one hill that you can climb quick enough to suddenly have all the knowledge in the universe and now you have control over everything. It's about being in control of your vessel. And this is why ship references and water references are going crazy right now, especially with that whole Sydney Sweeney thing we were talking about earlier this week. It has very little to do with politics and denim jeans. Most of that is dealing with mind control. Because if you go back to the last time that denim jeans were being displayed very heavily through entertainment and media and resistance era was around the time of the Cold War with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the race to space between Russia and the United States. And it's a fight for consciousness. Because if you rule consciousness, you rule an economy, you rule a future. You then are controlling the quantum realm because people aren't making their own decisions anymore. People become part of a hive mind. And so When I started seeing that all these wars are going on between like the different denim companies, you had Gap, you had American Eagle, which, American patriotism is also a part of that, but also understanding the origins of America and where it comes from, it really makes you sit back and think, am I in control of my own story, or am I watching somebody else's version of what it's supposed to be? How can I become in control of my own story? How can I use the knowledge that I'm gaining in order to advance forward? And there's so many different ways you can. The limit doesn't exist on what you can do with the knowledge, but you first have to learn how to master the self. Because when you become someone who has your energy extracted constantly, meaning you believe everything you see online, you go into a fear state as soon as you see one TikTok influencer telling you that the government told you it's all over. This puts you not only in a fear state, but also like in a reptilian state of mind. And I'm not talking about an actual reptilian, I'm talking about the fight or flight state in the limbic brain, where every decision that you're making is going to be based solely on emotions. And you know how sometimes when people are feeling overwhelmed, they freeze? It's like the pineal gland is getting calcified from being able to receive information and transfer it and move it to a place of knowing and consciousness. And then the body is only moving from these very lower material states because it doesn't know how to move. Your body has fluid in it that needs to channel. This is why when we come into this material realm, we come from our mother's womb. That mother's womb is amniotic fluid that we're swimming in until we are reborn here into this material realm. And so technology being used as an alien parasite at this point is to extract people to bring them into this other world, like the Oasis. If y'all have ever seen like Ready Player One, and they're talking about people living in the stacks and all that, it's pretty much a reality at this point. I even watched this show called The Institute. I just finished episode 5, and a lot of it is about mind control, using children to remote view, utilizing their powers to carry out political acts. And I thought about it, I'm like, why at this particular time are they showing this show? It reminds me of the same energy when they put out Stranger Things. All of this is fantasy until it's not when you really analyze what they're talking about. And when you do, it makes you question, what you're doing, but also your ability to decrypt a system that is run off of pure encryption, meaning passcodes and passwords, scrambled ciphers, and things like that. When you start being able to read that, you reverse the energy as well. Because now you can read the story, you can understand the language. And I'm going to tell you about 99% of the language that you probably hear me speaking on and other content creators who call themselves decoders. We understand encrypted language. We understand that there are 200 to 300 different ciphers that you can use to scramble language. And as people are processing it, because the way you're processing information according to even your specific language can often translate back to binary code, which was used to build computers. Binary code is masculine and feminine principles. So imagine scrambling this through different language and words according to the way it's constructed. You confuse the language, you confuse the people. And so now, they're building AI gods for people to try to reach what they consider to be the heavens when the only heaven is the one within. It's funny, y'all always get me on Sundays. I promise you I don't try to do this. I hear myself and I'm like, damn, you sound like you in church. I don't try to do it, y'all. I do not. I do not try. It just comes out that way. It comes out that way because also the way that we've been given false ideologies about the way the world is and the way that it's run often happens in a house that is supposed to be about spirit. Spirit doesn't have to be a bad thing, but don't think that there are not spirits that have malevolent intentions versus ones that are. It's supposed to be a home, but it doesn't feel like a home, especially when people start putting stipulations on what you can and can't be, how to love and how not to love. And I'm talking about in the healthy ways. And then you start saying who can come in and who can't. Then it starts to become more of an organization of governance versus one of liberation or freedom. That's why nobody wants to go to church anymore. But it is what it is. I know my job. I know what I've done in several lives before. Y'all probably seen some of my pictures that I've put up before as profile pictures. It's an example of, me knowing what I've done. I've been an oracle in other lives. I have been a Magdalene figure in other lives. And so when I'm here and I truly like pick apart these characters, not the way that they've been given to me through the mental construction of, the Bible over and over again or other spiritual books, but really understanding like as a divine feminine and utilizing the same nerve inside of my body that helped birth my children, this means that I am speaking things into creation. I'm speaking conscious awareness back into creation by sharing with you the things that are heavily veiled in front of your eyes every single day. And it doesn't mean you have to spend like every moment of the day trying to deconstruct every little thing. That's not for everybody. Some of us are coders because we are doing our specific background work. If I'm sitting here doing the decoding, some people are out here to take the decodes and then perform the action in everyday life. And we all help each other in different ways. There's some things I don't know. And what I don't know, I will always direct you to teachers who do or who I feel like have helped me along the way. Because when we start putting gates in front of all of these things, like, okay, you can learn and you can't, this not only creates the drive for desire of the ego, because everybody wants to be right all the time, but also keeping other people out, saying, oh, well, you're not like us, so you can't come in here. That's why I will not. Somebody was in here quoting Kendrick Lamar. Please stop doing that. Don't do that in here. This is not the live for that, because when we're talking about the way that we give messages to one another, division is not how things get solved. It's not how they get done. People have different perspectives on everything. We all approach consciousness in different ways. And so learning that we all have gifts to contribute to making the world, whatever we feel like the world is, a better place, we have to realize people operate differently. We operate at different levels of consciousness depending on our understanding of the world, our perception, and our experiences. Some people are very attached to bad experiences that they've had. Therefore, they can't open themselves up to new ones because the cycle of consciousness has told them, this is not for me. Every person who looks like this is going to treat me this way. Every place I enter that seems familiar to this is going to be that way. And that's why human perception is so important, because if you're going to analyze something, you have to analyze it to its entirety. You can't pick apart pieces you like and that you don't like. You have to look at it as a whole. And even still, then we make ourselves this whole hall of judgment. What is good and what isn't? What's bad and what isn't? Morally what's good and what's not. You know that. If you have a heart, you understand what's good and what's bad. But there's also several layers of perception underneath that, which is why it makes it easier for people to do whatever and say whatever all this time without any knowledge. Even as someone who's coming in this space, I can tell you guys, I'm still learning every single day. There's never a day I will come on here and be like, yep, Taylor is the answer to all. No, I just figure that this is a very specific time in history where people will benefit of seeing someone, anyone, not just me, but anyone, being able to teach gated knowledge to those who are seeking liberation within their own lives. And not even necessarily liberation from this earth, because people just want to eject out of here. They're like, pull the plug, let me out. You don't know what's out there because it's about what's in here. This is where the prison is at the end of the day. And it has now been moved and very obvious to a controlled space like the black cube, like the computers. These are representations of Saturn also, which is a god of time and discipline. So you lose your time when you lose sense of self, but then you start to construct time in a way where you think you don't have enough. And because you don't think you have enough, then your brain operates differently. It's like, I don't have enough time. Let me hurry up and do this. Let me make a quick fix. Alchemy happens from learning the study of how to transmute lead-based metals into gold. So any craft that is mastered, you have to learn over time, over and over again. The only way that I've even gotten to this point where I can come online confidently and speak about things I know, and even sharing the things that I don't know, that was a lot of like inner work. Because I would tell myself, well, you're not a woman. Well, you're not like 50 years old who's always been online in the space, or you don't have 30 books out, in person. All you have is this free time you have without your kids to come online and share a message. So when you do that with grace, do it with eloquence, and do that with understanding that your gift is here for a reason. And you can either learn to master that gift every single day, or you can deny that gift and then walk around miserable saying you don't have anything. I have helped hundreds of people, if not thousands at this point, but even every day I'll still be like, no, it's not enough yet. I don't even know that I'll feel satisfied until maybe even the end of my life, when I'm a very, very old woman in this life, to know that I did all that I could to help liberate as many people as possible back to themselves again. Liberation is not billions of dollars in a bank account. Liberation isn't being famous on TV, because even that's a hoax. Half the stuff they show on you is either channeled influence, things that they want you to see that way, or things that are designed to keep people operating lower. I don't want anybody's life except for my own, even the hard parts. And because of that, I can tell you failure has been a huge part of my process. And what I view as failure for me may not be failure for somebody else. What I do seems amazing to some people. They're like, I don't know how you get online and speak like this. Child, I don't know either. I just do it. And even if I sound silly, if I look stupid, if I do something dumb, if I got eye boogers, if something's in my teeth, I'm gonna still find a way to get up and just keep talking through it, because that's how we adapt. We keep learning, and we don't let things stop us just because of a temporary moment of embarrassment or because we might not know everything. I also have the ability to be corrected a lot of times. Maybe something that I don't present in an eloquent enough way or without enough information. And somebody, as long as they approach me with respect and we can talk one on one, I'm more than happy to be like, well, you come and explain it then. Or maybe we can have a talk so I have a better understanding or framework of it. Everybody has, like, they want to be too many cooks in the kitchen. Everybody has the answer, but we're supposed to be working in a communal setting. And if a hive mind can work by taking different people's energy and ideas, but then keeping them within a controlled environment, who's to say that the awakening process can't too involve groups of people coming together for a common purpose? Um, So somebody put in the comments, after watching a documentary about Aleister Crowley, I hate the term do it thou wilt. It's interesting that word hate that you use. I try to be careful as I can about my words at this point. There's a lot of things I dislike in the world, things that I'm not comfortable with, things that are not with my spirit. But I feel from what I've learned at this point, it takes more energy to hate than to stay balanced. Because when you hate, you are anchoring into those lower material realms. Some things you have to let go, even if you don't like them, even if your spirit doesn't agree with them, because when you hold on to them, you make them a part of your reality. That's why I've become an observer, I guess, in a sense, because my job with observation is to not lean emotionally into one idea too much, because at any time that can shift or change. When I declare that I hate something all the time, I'm giving that my energy. Oh, I hate this. I hate that. There's a lot of stuff that is very wonky in the world, things that would make no sense to a lot of people. I consider anybody who comes across any of my posts half the time probably think I'm insane. Doesn't matter how presented I look on here, because they're not yet ready to receive the idea. Their mind and their cognitive dissonance is going to challenge what I do. And, because of that, it is what it is. But I don't focus my energy on things that like that. I don't use the term hate, because for a lot of it, for me, it is what it is. Whatever has been solidified to make this world what it has become at this point has already been done. It's how do we move forward now? How do we progress forward rather than looping, rather than repeating the same things, because that's not doing anything for the collective community? How do we figure out how to show people the transfer of finance in the economy to a completely digital realm and actively teach this without saying, yeah, we hate them, we don't like them? We know that. But how is that helping us progress during this time? We talk about alien wars happening, but us waiting around for the mothership, what is that doing? What is the mothership? It is the place from which you came. It may be a spacecraft in the sky 5,000 light years away, but right now, your understanding of it can be it is the original source from which you came to be born here into this world. If you want the mothership to save you, you have to go within back to the mother where you came from originally in the first place. Hey, Mai. Hey. So, healing the relationship with the divine feminine is a huge part, because I know a lot of people are triggered by their relationships with their mother, with the feminine, with creativity, with desire, with sacral energy. And without that being completely healed, anything is going to get to you, because you can't even move beyond that second chakra system, which again is sacral. It's known as Vam, it is water. If you can't figure out how to master that element, there's no moving on to the solar plexus or the heart or the throat or the third eye or the crown. You're stuck down here right now. So, a lot of these ideas also are going to be very hard to speak to people about who don't have the same kind of knowledge. And it's not your idea, or it's not your job to try to drag everybody along with you and be like, come on, you got to heal too. We got to all rise in awakening. It happens every day. It happens every single day. Every time we get online and we have conversations, you can take anything that I say and go throughout your day and apply it. Go within. Let's say you get triggered during the day. Somebody drops hot coffee on you, or you get into a fight with a parent, or your partner doesn't understand you, or somebody stole something from you. That's a moment to master your energy. That's a moment to think about, am I going to let this take away my life force by being attached to the energy? Or am I going to balance and master myself, and anything that I feel like is taken from me, anything that doesn't agree with me will always come back into balance with my spirit? It's not easy to master, y'all, especially people who are highly emotional. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing because you're emotional. You're just sensitive to energy. That's all. And I know I say that's all. You're like, that's all. But yeah, but also know some very intense things can happen when you have not mastered your energy. And you also become easily susceptible to having ideas implanted into you. I think we talked a little bit yesterday about Manchurian candidates and government operations, remote viewing through you or implanting ideas so that you carry out certain tasks. Think about it. If you are in control of your vessel, nothing can infiltrate your spirit, your mind, or your brain hard enough to take control of your vessel and your body, because that's your temple. That is how you're moving through this. Let me answer a few questions. Timeline recall. Okay, guys. So quick pause. Right now is the last day for my sale that is happening on my website. Just letting you guys know. Right now, we have the Oracle transmission PDFs and the timeline recall sessions. Both of these I've created to help design you to see your codes and your path. What do my codes and my path mean? Well, through things like astrology, numerology, Gematria, human design, you can find an overall blueprint of who you are and who you've been. For some people, this can help lead to different outcomes of their lives, because the more you know yourself, the more you know how to navigate your path. I designed 2 specific sessions with me because the way that I learned to decode was specifically about pattern recognition. I needed to pick apart my own story, my family, the things that were painful for me in my life, analyzing my challenges and my strengths to figure out, like, okay, what is it that I'm really here to do? The timeline recall session is one-on-one via video, where we meet and we talk about these things. You also receive a copy of my book, Decoded Reality. So we will talk about the things in which you may have forgotten from a previous life. We're going to explore different patterns. We're going to talk about events in history that have happened on your birthday portal, the day that you entered into the material plane. We're going to talk about notable figures in history who you share these common patterns and themes with. Because when I can give you more than one example of repeating codes in your life, meaning the masculine and feminine principles that built specifically you and who you are, you can move differently on your gifts in life, on your challenges, and your strengths. The Oracle transmission PDF is the same thing, but it's not a live version with me. I found both to be helpful for people. Some people just like reading it. That way they can just hold on to it forever. Some people would rather just talk with me one-on-one. So both of those are 50% off on my website. Today is the last day. The code is flash sale. So it's down here at the bottom. If you've ever had one question for me, I know I have like very deep work right now. Very, very deep work that is very hard to grasp. Like, you don't know what video to start with. It's too much. If you've had one question for me, I now have my Ask the Oracle one question service available on my website right now. You ask a question. It'll give you a little prompt to ask. Keep it respectful, guys. Keep it healthy. Also, I am not a medical practitioner, and I need to make that very clear. I am experienced in Eastern medicine. I am experienced as a shaman. But what I will not do is assign you pills or diagnose you with anything. This is about utilizing your knowledge, my knowledge specifically also, to answer any question that you've had and me give you call to actions on how to proceed on that path. You'll receive an audio transmission from me that's about 15 to 20 minutes where I answer your question. I give you calls to actions and even things that you can think about, read, or explore in order to help you dig further into whatever question you have about your life and what you're looking for. So all of those services are on my website right now. The link is in my bio. You can also see previous teachings that I've had. A couple of my live decoding classes are available on YouTube right now in the live section. So if you go to the link in my bio, you go to my YouTube. Our decoding one-on-one class is there. I just did a live on why we decode in the first place. So you can go watch all those replays on YouTube. Also have Tailored Healing TV, which is my personal show. We're about to go back up to finish season 1 next week. So the next episode will be available. There's about 6 episodes out right now, but it is a private subscription service on my website. And then other communities I have are Substack, Patreon, and then Discord's the free community. So if you want to talk with like-minded people about different subjects, we have different channels for different things. We have stock market channel, the crypto channel, pop culture, politics, so many different things to decode because we're picking apart the universe, guys. We're delayering the things that have been hidden, veil over veil over veil, so that we can start to find liberation in our lives. One of my favorite things to teach when it comes to personal sovereignty is the financial realm right now, because it is literally what most people feel like is holding them back, even though it is mental. And I think if there is a better understanding on how the spiritual world is connected to the financial world, and we really break down these words and concepts, people will see it's not over. It's just a skill that has to be learned. You have to learn the construction of the system in which you're in. If you're stuck in a prison and you're trying to figure out how do I get rid of these bars, it's not just one cheat code. It's about learning, well, what kind of material was created to construct this prison? How many layers of the prison are there? How many guards are there at every door? When people escape, sometimes they don't have a proper exit plan. And because there's no proper exit plan, they get booted back to where they came from. And we even see symbolism of this happening in the news. I know that there was something in New Orleans like a while back of prisoners escaping. I view everything as symbolism at this point. When I see a story, it's like the universe giving you an analogy of what's happening in real time. And right now, people feel like they live in this inescapable prison. They look around and they see everything happening in the world and say, it's all over. There's nothing out here for us. Come pick me up, spaceship. I don't want to be here anymore. Your spaceship is your womb. It's the womb, your first room that you came into life when you were still connected to your mother, and you were ejected out after that, whether it be naturally or by force. You were brought here to find that experience again. Sometimes we look for it in a lover. Sometimes we look for it in a career or a hobby. Sometimes we look for it in, friends or family members. But however you find that, that's your path. That's what you're here to do. I don't really take like the atheist route, as a lot of people like there's no meaning, there's no existence because we're just a bunch of cells. But I'm like, well, if we are just cells and we feel like we're in cells, we're in prisons, we're in some sort of nucleus that's extracting us of all of our energy. If all of that is true, how do we sit with that every day? Do we just wake up and keep experiencing it, or do we interact with the universe as it interacts with us? It speaks to us through code. It speaks to us through stories, through analogies, ones that have been painted on the wall. If we look at hieroglyphs, if we look at ancient symbols, if you even watch a Marvel movie, they put everything in there to let you know that these stories are repeating themselves through the algorithm of life. And if you pay attention to numerical ciphers and codes, you'll see that the same things tend to always happen in the same cycles. That's why I said, y'all remember all this alien talk has happened like 2 or 3 times already since 2020. They keep releasing things in the news. Then there was a thing, I think a couple weeks ago or this past week, about a woman seeing an alien on her Ring door camera. And I'm like, what? Didn't we already see that? In Las Vegas, I believe it was last year, maybe the year before that, but we already did this, which puts people again into this false loop of someone's coming to save me. How does your mind keep moving? How do you get action every day? How do you have the will to get up if you're sitting around waiting for someone to come save you in a spaceship? How do you learn about the neurological pathways that are mapped by action and emotion every single day, that are studied heavily and then infiltrated through the consciousness that is our technology or our phone? Now Chat GPT has become your new therapist. And it's like people know this in a way, because if you've seen, what's that show? Is it The Middle Place? Do y'all know what the name of that show is? Where Kristen Bell is like, she dies and she's not in the afterlife. Is it called The Middle Place? Does anybody know? But they have a character on there named Janet, and Janet is basically like an AI, the good place. Yeah. Janet is basically like an AI. And it's like the way that people are giving this over, they're not even collectively solving their own problems. They're just getting mirrored back the language of which they're seeking. It doesn't mean that there's not knowledge out here that AI can reflect back to you. There's also books that people have written. There's also experience that actual people have. There's a reason why all these computational systems are actually drawn from spiritual systems first and then brought into a mathematical state. We spoke about this yesterday too. I talked about IFA being a computational system of math, probably one of the first ones we ever had. But people are mesmerized by AI and binary systems and microprocessors. I'm like, well, if you want to talk about microprocessors, if you've actually looked at a substrate block of a mycelium network, it looks like the brain. It looks like a SIM chip, which means that dead organisms can feed off of you as you let them. And they can make more dead organisms, things that are not alive, things that are decaying over time. And so if our brain is operating through this hive mind and we're all connected through servers and computers and technology, this means that up to a degree, we're able to read the codes that create our world. whether it be contracts, whether it be treaty agreements, whether it be banking systems, whether it be, contracts that you sign at your local gym, there's still wording and phrasing that signifies that there is an energetic exchange between two parties. Doesn't mean they're actual people, but two parties, meaning there is an agreement. I'm going to give you this and you're going to give me this for this. And then people enter into these contracts not understanding that this has become your value being exchanged. So when you feel like your life force is being drained or sucked and you're not yet prepared to move into the new system that's being created, you feel like you get left behind. You feel like the world is spinning. You feel like time is speeding up. And to a degree, it is, because your perception of understanding the world has changed. Your perception of being able to bond with what we know as our original womb versus this false one that's being created right now. When I got comfortable with these subjects, it became clear to me that there was going to be no way that I could come out into the world and speak about these things without laying them out there like a speech. It had to be laid out like a speech with pictures and numbers. And when I started doing like that, my views actually started going up. But here's the thing. Then people started saying, oh, she's AI. She sounds like AI. Because there's no way I can deliver words at a particular cadence and rhythm with an intention, because I know that people cannot hear my words without either over processing or under processing. So it must be like a computational system, because we don't recognize that humans anymore were the original creators of what we consider to be technology now. No way she could be that intelligent without having AI. No way she could do that. And do I use studio lights? Absolutely, y'all. I'm not going to lie to you about that. Have I brushed up my appearance before? Yes, because perception is everything. You're more likely to get through in the algorithm when you have studio lighting. When you are sitting at like the same format every single day, there's also tricks that you have to learn to alchemize if you have a channel or a format. I had to go through like the depths of the experience where videos wouldn't do so well. My videos that don't do well are the ones that they're now banning on TikTok for, like, if you have a green screen or if you're using music that belongs to somebody else. They're making it very difficult because now they know that creativity is hard for people. You have to draw from other ideas and concepts in order to be original. And then they would even flag my videos that I made and say that they were unoriginal when I'm just using myself and my voice and nothing else. So now these systems are even trained to look at themselves as parasites and people as parasites. I'm like, nope, you can't. We're not going to give you an energy exchange if we feel like what you have is fake. I'm like, but y'all are the fake ones. What are you even talking about? But there's a rhythm that I had to learn with that, because I'm like, if I have to like take myself out of the way and stop thinking that there's someone at TikTok headquarters who hates me and is deciding what goes through in the algorithm, and instead look at this as an ecosystem. What feeds off each other? Like, what feeds off of another organism in an ecosystem? How does it work? What makes this particular being more powerful than another? How can I use my knowledge of how this organism works in order to get my work seen, in order to get across to more people? So when you see my videos like in this format, that's why I had to start doing that. That's why I had to find more constructed ideas on the way to present my knowledge. Because any other way, 99% of the time, it's like, oh, that's AI, or she doesn't have the ability to do that herself. Must be fake. She must be a Mason. She must be doing this. I'm like, guys, they were priestesses who gave you guys this knowledge for thousands of years. Priestesses who got employed by kings. Priestesses who weren't even serving kings and who were in the water kingdom. And we're not even going to go deep into like the Atlantis and Lemuria thing today, because that'll take you guys somewhere else. But you see how much that knowledge has been lost, that you think that the ultimate form of intelligence is now artificial and not organic. So as a mother, as a feminine being, yes, that does break my heart. It does, but it also gives me the opportunity to see that when the world has lost its ability to see, there are still people around to help restore sight again, to restore feeling, to restore love and humanity. And even at this point, for a lot of people, the question is, what is humanity at this point? People are out here killing, telling people they hate them, they don't like them, making people starve. But this is where it starts, teaching one another, feeding each other with information. I was going to talk about this earlier at the beginning, but I wrote this in my notes earlier this morning when I was journaling. I was saying, well, we have a feed on our phones. Your FYP page is a feed. So it is literally ingesting you with information and data as you are scrolling. And what you pay attention to the most is feeding your spirit. Your spirit needs food. But for some people, that food isn't knowledge. Sometimes the food is chaos. Sometimes it's hate. Sometimes it's issues and challenges and problems. But personally, as a problem solver, I'm like, if I'm going to scroll, it has to be in a space where information is king. Information has to be king to me at this point because it is why our energy is siphoned so much. Data is food. It is food for these servers, which is the Akashic servers or a replica of them per se, of everything that's ever happened within humanity. It's been documented. And if we take ourselves out of the linear space of time and know that it's not moving in a straight line, it's moving in a flow, you get that everything that we think hasn't happened, will happen, maybe hasn't happened, in some dimension of consciousness already has. But don't get tied to that. You stay present. You stay in the future, you have anxiety too much. You stay in the past, then you're repeating old patterns and behaviors. Being in the present is being able to observe all things at once. And I know we talked about that movie too, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Very, very interesting film that gave a lot of cookies, gave a lot of information on what this world is. And that's why I also believe that entertainment can be an entrainment system. Most likely it is an entrainment system. But for those people who are decoders or who want to understand why certain programming is happening at particular times in history, all you have to do is pay attention to the signs. Superman, out right now, talking about planet Krypton or crypto at a time where cryptocurrency is now becoming one of the rulers of the way that money systems are operating all over the world. They didn't just put out that movie because it was a cute time to put it out. Where was Superman from? Planet Krypton. What is Krypton? What is the word crypt? Hidden, vault. How does cryptocurrency work? How does the blockchain work? Think about these shapes. Think about these terms and the way they're used. Then take it down to like a childlike understanding of it. And I mean childlike. Think about kids in Montessori who play with blocks. They are understanding the foundations of how things are built. Before giving them complicated things to solve, they use emotion and logic together to start figuring things out at a very early age. Sometimes you have to take yourself back into a childlike state of mind because we've been pre-programmed for however old you are. I'm 33, so it's been 33 years of deprogramming that programming. But also for some people, they're just now waking up today, taking things one step at a time. You're curious about a subject, take notes, just like you're in school. Write things down. I know most people at this point, because I had to get used to it too, my hands started cramping because I don't write anymore. I type all the time. But being able to utilize your hand, your fingers, I mean, you can use your thumbprint, right? This is your whole energetic signature you put on your phone every day. To what? Decrypt the system. It sees your eye scan. It gets your thumbprint. It gets your data and reflects back to you. It opens up a portal for you. You are now able to use these things because your decryption system is now open. We have to start decrypting things in our brains, in our emotions, in our spirits. It helps us grow through this experience because guess what, guys? It's not over. This is the beginning. Everything you saw from the Terminator to Bicentennial Man to War of the Worlds, all of it, they're putting all that out now, like recycling all the stuff we already saw because they don't have anything past that point. And by they, whether you want to refer it to as like tech overlords or AI gods, whatever, there is nothing in history that moves past this point. So we either digress backwards or we progress forward. There's nothing else besides this. This is it. Even when it comes to like the alien stuff, I've had people say, well, they're going to come. Y'all let me know when it happens. At least in the way that you think it's going to happen. Let me know when it happens. I'm going to be honest with you. The main war that you're fighting right now is not on the terrain of the material plane. It is happening in your brain. But because it's happening in your brain, you think it's happening in your body. And because you think it's happening in your body, it starts fucking with your spiritual development. Excuse my language, but I had to be clear about that one. It messes with your spiritual development. You can't develop from a spiritual infant to an adult until you become childlike again, meaning being open to everything around you. The first single I ever put out when I started doing like sound bath affirmations, because I have a little album on Spotify that I put out like 4 or 5 years ago when my first child was born. It was called Inner Child. So I'm like, if we can't do anything in this world, if we don't understand the financial realm, the political realm, esoteric magic, secrets, what you can understand is when you're a child, the world is more open to you. It is only when a child is not nurtured in the way that it is supposed to that they are stripped of the very things they need in order to thrive in this world. Childlike imagination is what creates what we live in. Your ability to dream, to explore, to love unconditionally. You know how many people are stripped of that at the very beginning, and then that becomes a part of their programming forever? Learning to break that, learning to reconstruct the idea of what you think the world is based on the original principles. There's a reason why there are 42 laws of Mott and why 42 is typically used to signal time. Like we have 24 hours in a day. It's an inversion. 4 plus 2 is also 6, which is half of 9. 6, 9 is the sign of the Cancer, the mother, or the void. In Freemasonry, it is used as the keystone, that is which holding two pillars of life together. And so it all goes back to that feminine purpose. When they're talking about the divine mother and then they bring in aliens, I'm like, well, what if the divine mother was an alien? Something etheric, something not of just planet Earth, but of the cosmos and the stars. And then we're given all this programming as to what certain aliens are doing. There's more than one being in the galaxy, y'all. There's not just one. It's not just the great aliens that they gave you in Hollywood or American Horror Story. And these stories reflect things that have been on the walls of the pyramids. In underground caves, Osiris was depicted as blue and green before. And yet here we get Yoda in Star Wars. We get Lloyd, the alien. We get Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy. They didn't just make these things up out of plain sight. Also, you got to think about like when someone is deprived of oxygen and how they turn blue. All of these things are hidden codes and symbolism into the way the world is. So when we talk about perception and control, sometimes turning your phone off is best. I'm not gonna lie to you. It is. Some people work primarily off of their phones, and that makes it pretty hard for them. I will say there are a lot of people who have found solutions. Like I think there's a creator on here right now who is getting rotary phones and connecting them to iPhones. It looked like a really cool idea. I actually want to get one myself, but to kind of disconnect herself from screen time. She is finding a way to move the signal from the iPhone to a rotary phone so you don't have to spend all day scrolling. So you remember we have real experiences where we can create things amongst one another. Because here, while my work is primarily teaching online, I also want people to get back out and go do things they're interested in again. Find value in the things that they find interesting. Not much as making your hobby your work, because when did work even become a phrase? When did that become like the epitome for life? To me, it may look like work, but I'm also living in my purpose. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be here doing. There are not many teachers out here right now who can take these very large ideas, not many, because I've learned from teachers myself, who can construct these lessons into things that people can understand as if they were at a collegiate level education and be able to take these notes on what I'm saying right now and apply it to their own lives. Some people just simply want to get on here and yap all day. I don't even like being on here all day. But it's important to me to be able to give these lessons out so that you can take them in real life and learn from them. Whether you want to learn about maritime law, whether you want to learn about Gematria or world systems of bondage, whether you want to learn about herbalism or food for thought, learning how to transition the way that you treat your body versus the way that you've been programmed to. It's a huge part of it. And it's available for everybody, no matter what. It's not unavailable to you, but knowledge is only going to take you as far as you're open to it. And we don't want to drown. If we're talking about we're on the seas of consciousness, you're not going to run into the deepest end of the pool just because you can. Because usually that's how people drown. They're not prepared to enter into the seas of consciousness. They're not prepared to take on large amounts of information, large bodies of water, and they will get swallowed alive. That's why I say take your time. Don't rush into everything. If you have to learn how to swim at the shallow end of the pool, meaning you just want to focus on the chakras right now, you just want to focus on inner healing first and then move on to the big things, then my advice is do that. You're not on anybody's time but your own. When you're sitting here worried about being on someone else's time, that's when you become a part of their time system. Timekeeping is done that way for a reason. The reconstruction of the way that we view time has become an energy extraction in itself. Whether we're talking about the movement from the Mayan calendar to the Gregorian and the Julian calendar, moving from analog clocks, sundials, to now we wait for the iPhone to tell us what time it is, knowing that there is a clear difference in the way that that time is being constructed versus the way it actually is. Understanding the cosmos and understanding the mythology behind all this has to be, again, taken in a collegiate way, but from a kindergarten level. Meaning, I'm not going to just throw the information on you without constantly reminding you take breaks. Take breaks, because we're not going to be on this live all day. I'm, in fact, probably going to be getting off in a little bit. I've already been on an hour so long. I don't want it to be so much information that you never get up out of bed and you're just watching my live all day. I want you to explore, go write, go for a bike ride, go talk with a friend, go get in community and start exchanging ideas and seeing how you can help one another. Don't let this just be another conversation that you just sat and watched another TikToker talking about or another YouTuber and you did nothing with it, because the world is still moving. And when I say it's moving, I mean energy is consistently moving. Ideas are moving. Awareness is moving. And we're learning how to grow and expand. We're not waiting around for the aliens that they gave us in Hollywood to come back and save us. Because in fact, they say, I'm gonna say this allegedly, that our levels of control in government is infiltrated by aliens. But again, this is a huge galaxy. There's different kinds of beings everywhere, but are you in control of your own vessel and how you move? There's also fate and free will. There's a script that is already written. Our genetic code is a script. A line of DNA looks like a film strip. And so these are pictures and images captured of every day, every moment of your life and the way that you move. And so when you become in the director's seat, you stop being just the figure cast in the play about you, and you start becoming the director. And you guys have probably seen symbolism in this, like in the Truman Show. When Truman becomes aware that his entire life is a script that is being played out and everybody around him is in on it too, when he gets that self-sovereignty back and he learns, oh, I can be in control of my own ship. I don't have to keep putting off this trip to Fiji my entire life. I'm going to exit out of this. That is exiting the code. When he puts out his arms in the end, doing the symbolism of Christ or Osiris slain, depending on how you view it, he disassembles the version of death and rebirth and then is reborn as the Horus type figure. So that symbolism you're going to keep seeing through movies and shows. I'm going to end this live. This is the last subject I'm going to talk about, because I talked about how I watched War of the Worlds with Ice Cube right now. We have a lot of themes revolving around ice in entertainment and media right now, whether it be about politics or entertainment. The thing that I found most interesting about that is that War of the Worlds, written by H.G. Wells, one of his mentors had the last name Huxley. And I thought that was interesting because I know of Aldous Huxley, who wrote the book Brave New World. Brave New World is the title of that new Captain America film. And we talked about that a little after the death of Malcolm Jamal Warner, and Anthony Mackie, who plays Captain America, and that connection to the rising sun of Horus. This whole mythological story of the rising sun who comes of the Great Mother, or Isis, or whatever incarnation she comes in this life as, being a representation of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And so if you see the symbolism in the movies and shows, you know there's a certain level of influence trying to tell you what the story is, but in plain sight, also letting you know what is really happening right now. It's an inversion. They give you their version of the story, but you have to know the actual story. You have to be able to pick apart that. And then we see it happening with deaths in Hollywood, the entertainment industry. You just pick apart the archetype. What story is being told here? You guys heard the story, the Greek story about Icarus flying too close to the sun. You've heard the story about Saturn and Kronos and the eating of children, the eating of time. When you start understanding those stories at a logical level and you don't attach your emotions to them, you can look at it for what it is, and then you can understand your place in it too. So I want to just end this by saying, no matter what you watch, no matter what you see happening in the media, these great tragedies, these stories that are occurring, your place in it is important because you have to know who you are in order to progress forward. You have to know that I'm here with a purpose. I'm here to understand myself. I'm here to help my community. I'm here to evolve. Everybody's idea of community, help, family looks different in this life. And I could give you the trope of we're all in this together. Some people do not feel that way, and that's absolutely fine. But what I will say is you're someone who is able to master your own personal elements. You're needed right now. You're needed to teach people because there's a whole generation right now who doesn't have that access. It was cut off at a certain point. And what happened in 2020 was like the Kickstarter to everything we're experiencing right now. It was already going on, but it was like kind of like the final nail in the coffin of eyesight. I'll say that. Your ability to see beyond the veil. But now that veil is thinning. And we need people who are able to take these big ideas and deconstruct them so people can understand better. Rather than just like giving out a bunch of conspiracies or ideas, let's start bringing back factual knowledge. Let's start bringing back charts and diagrams. Let's start bringing back classes. And also find value in what you're teaching too. Don't think it doesn't have any value because not everybody's going to respect that it has value. That doesn't mean you have to charge $1 million to get by or think that you need all this money, because someone who really knows how to master energy can also manipulate it as well. Meaning, if you understand how systems work better, you work better. When you understand how consumerism habits work, you can start analyzing them better and see what is for me and what is not for me. You can even start finding community that can help support you in the areas where you might not know everything or where you're not well versed. Building community has to start first with everybody stop trying to be the number one leader. Then, even within those systems, assign tasks and jobs to people who know their gifts and they know what they're good at. Because even these people who you consider to be elite, or these beings you consider to be elite, they use astrologers, they use numerologists, they use herbalists, they use scientists. And we have plenty of them in our community. So what? You don't have a validation from an accredited university. You know, those universities half the time are employed by royal charters. And there are people who went through a process of approval on what they could teach and what they couldn't teach, what they believed and what they didn't believe, what they chose to push to the public and what they chose to hide behind closed doors. And they can do that because of sovereign power. So self-sovereignty, in my opinion, doesn't start with paperwork. It doesn't start with a screen name on TikTok or YouTube. It starts with the desire, but also the connection to oneself and knowing that your existence is one of light. When you start waking that body up and becoming aware, the world around you starts to change and shift with it. So, and this also, let me say this real quick. This doesn't mean you can't learn from a university. I want to be clear on that because I went to university as well. This does not mean you can't learn from it, but it's not the only form of education in the world. It's not the only form. And sometimes we have to build our own universities. We can't wait around, and not in that Hillman talk way, because y'all remember what happened with that. But obviously, a lot of what I'm speaking on is more esoteric, guarded knowledge that happens within like societies and orders. So just know it's not for everybody. But anyway, to kind of close out again, guys, this live will be available on YouTube. I'm going to upload it after it's done on StreamYard, and it'll be available. Today is the last day for this sale. So if you are interested in getting your own personal decode, whether it be a live session with me or your Oracle transmission PDF, screenshot this right now. Come back to it later. Today's the last day. Tomorrow the code won't work anymore, but they're 50% off right now. The code is flash sale. You can also find my service, Ask the Oracle One Question, which is available on my website. Discord is a great community. We've grown to over 500 plus members who actively decode through different things that we're seeing within the matrix system, the media, helping wake one another up to the programming that's constantly being put out. And it does have a purpose. Because if we're educated to something that maybe we didn't know yesterday, we can help open a door for someone else. Sometimes it's in entertainment and media. Sometimes it's something that's happening, in politics or the technology realm. Sometimes it's happening in the environmental realm. We have the ability to access knowledge and information and share it amongst one another. The internet is not a closed off space. It only becomes closed off when your gateways are not open. And then I have plenty of other offerings on my website too. If you want to start learning how to decode, I have a Mystic Matrix Decoder bundle that has my 3 books, Gematria Unveiled, the Oracle Codex, and the Coded Reality. If you get one of these sessions, you get a copy of the Coded Reality, but those books are also separate to purchase on my website as well, and also come in a bundle. I also have Oracle audio transmissions. So when I created the Oracle audio transmissions, a lot of that was about utilizing the power of my throat chakra. I noticed that a lot of people were always saying, oh, you should record an audiobook. You should do something, with speaking because your voice is soothing. And I realized in a world of information that is presented at either like a yelling tone or something that's presented with not enough force to really be understood, that I had a power to use my voice as a transitional space. when I started understanding what the vagus nerve did during childbirth, I saw that, okay, this is a gift that you have. So I recorded these audio calibrations of my voice, walking you through different ways to start to adjust your mind, adjust your thinking, not as a form of mind control, y'all, but as a way to help open up your reality. Meaning, if you wake up and the first thing that you think about is how the world is all over and how it's never going to get any better, chances are that's how the rest of your day is going to run in any aspect at all. Is the Oracle transmission about me or a particular topic? You. This is specific to you. There's a questionnaire before you go through booking to answer all your questions about yourself. You said your voice is what caught my attention first, too. Thanks. So I also have the Oracle audio transmission cookies. So they're called the Oracle's cookies, which I put out on my birthday as I turned 33 this year. So entering into that Christ consciousness age, I'm like, okay, we're here. That you've spent all this time studying, all this time with all these notebooks, these books. It is time now to graduate. You now have to move this knowledge into a space for people to be able to receive it too, because it means nothing if you're keeping it all for yourself. Knowledge is meant to be shared. It is meant to be explored. And so knowledge being a form of power, you're now able to use that to transition yourself into different spaces. You want to feel like, okay, I want to be financially sovereign now. We have to start talking about how money systems were formed, why they are what they are now, evidence that we have physically of being told through programming that this is what the money system was going to be. You want to learn about land and ownership? We have to open ourselves up to the spaces where people are teaching about it, but not as a quick fix. 33, yes, 33 is usually associated with Christ consciousness. Somebody asked about that. 33, also, we have 33 vertebrae in our spine. 33 was the year that they allegedly say that Christ died on the cross, but it is also, again, associated with the different levels of consciousness. Even in certain degrees of masonry, they have 33 degrees. You can book all of my services if you are interested via my website. The link is in my bio, tailoredhealingcollective.com. But if you cannot catch that quick enough, the link is in my bio to my website. And you go to the book online section, you can check out all of those offerings. Your mom was 33 when she was pregnant with you. You guys, you know what? Before hopping off real quick, I'm going to open it up for a few questions. Just a few questions, not too many. So if you have a question for me right now, I usually just get offline real quick, but I'll open up for a few questions. So you guys have any questions for me at all? I'll wait for a few minutes. We don't stay on here too long, y'all. I'm not the streamer who's going to be here for 24 hours. I cannot do that. I have a house to take care of. I have a body to cleanse. And also, I'm not going to let this be an energy extraction all day, as I don't think it should be for you either. What if I don't know my real birthday date? You don't have to know the birth time. If you have a day specifically that is important or special to you, that is related to your awakening, I can use that too, because it's a part of your encoded memory. With your gift, what are your goals? Well, I have several gifts, but with my specific ones that I'm using both online and creating my personal business and my legacy for my children, I want to create a space and be a center of transmission, like a medium for people to understand the esoteric mysteries, eventually build a school in person, but not off of other people's resources, through ones that I'm generating myself, because currency is never ending and never flowing. Eventually, I would like that school to grow, whether there be multiple schools everywhere. As we transition into a more digital space, I want these to be lessons that people eventually teach their children when they're old enough, to be able to transition this knowledge into people who are ready to receive it. Overall, I think that when it comes to goals, I don't even define it by one thing. It's how true can I stay to my journey and my path, the things that I say that I'm walking. If I say that personal sovereignty is important to me, what does that look like? How am I constructing it? And with each lesson that I come on here and teach, that becomes a part of me, like checking it off my list. Okay, you said you were going to stick to learning about financial sovereignty. You now want to teach it. Check. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I don't put too much pressure on myself anymore either. I used to do that a lot. As I get older, I'm like, if time is non-existent, it's not like you have to have things done by tomorrow, because every day is an energetic pull into a specific frequency. And as long as you are staying true to yourself, that is how you remain in flow. That is how you don't become imprisoned by time. So I know it was a long answer, but yeah. How can we decode what's currently happening in the country to stay positive or protect our energy? Well, we have a Discord community where you can decode. We have a politics channel. I do have a moderator for that channel specifically, but we talk about things in politics. Protecting yourself comes from protecting your energy. And protecting your energy means you not falling in submission to every single thing you see online. Not to become ignorant to what's going on in the world, but not letting every single thing scare you or put you in fear, and learning how to adapt to the knowledge in which you're taking. Also, learning to explore topics further, because very often we just take what we see at face value and never care to dig into it any deeper, or consider maybe everything that's being told to us is not given the full admission of truth and it's hidden behind many layers. It also depends on how well or how much you're willing to go dig into it again. I don't have a playlist on Spotify. I have my own affirmation tracks that I've released that are under Taylor DeClue or the Sound Bowl Mom. And you can find that on my website if you go to my music section. So yeah. See if I had any more questions, and then I'm going to end the live for today. I hope you guys had a nice time listening to me talk about these subjects and these things. I hope that you take time to kind of like mull on what I said. But also, like I said, get back to journaling, get back to writing, get back to communal spaces where expressing yourself with friends, with finding a sense of not progressivism, finding a way to progress through this world by linking with people who share a common frequency with you, not feeling like you have to save everybody, but being in alignment with the energy of what you want to be. I don't know that I'll be going live tomorrow. I don't usually go live all the time during the week. Those of you who follow me know that I have kids and my time is theirs during the week. So weekends is usually my free time. But the lives will be available on YouTube if you want to revisit them. I don't have the playlist on financial systems, but I do have quite a few videos on it. I probably will go ahead and construct a playlist